So let's talk about photosynthesis. Everybody knows what photosynthesis is. This is how plants make sugar for everybody else. So I want to go a little more deeper into photosynthesis because it's a much more complicated process than we really talk about. And it's something that's actually not that great a deal for the plants. So the rule for this is the NGSS is to talk about how photosynthesis transforms light energy into stored chemical energy. So the sun comes down, the plant makes sugar. Yay. But let's go a little deeper. We're familiar how we get energy. We consume things, we consume food, and it actually turns into energy for us. We basically consume proteins and fats and sugars, and they all become basically broken down in our bodies and they become food for us. Plants just need water, they just need soil and sunlight. So pure. Ah. But what's actually happening? Well, one, why can't we do that? Wouldn't it help with global warming? If we could just produce our own stuff, we just go out, sunbathe, we're good for the day. Sunbathe 3 times a day, you're good to go. Get a tanning booth, just tanning booth instead of eating. Why wouldn't that be cool? So let's talk about that too. So we don't have chloroplasts. We don't have these things in our cells that convert each chloroplast contains a single DNA molecule present in multiple copies, and they carry out their energy conversions using they're fixing carbon dioxide into sugar, basically. And what happens is the thing that does that is a thing called rubisco. Rubisco is so complicated you don't really learn about it until you get to like advanced biology. Because rubisco is basically ribulose biphosphate carboxylase. It's a large enzyme that takes the carbon dioxide and shoves it together to make sugar. And it's really, really slow, about 3 molecules per second compared to about 1,000 molecules per second for any other enzyme in the body. And so slow that plants basically compensate for that by basically building almost half of their protein in any given cell is actually rubisco. It's this stuff that builds and converts it. So it's just so slow. So the plant has to dedicate half of its energy to converting into sugar. So it's not an easy process for the plant. It's very, very difficult. It's not a great energy conversion. We're much more efficient, honestly. As carnivores, we just eat other people's energy and then we convert it ourselves. Whereas the plant has to create it from scratch, and it's a very slow process. We really can't convert. Can we augment? So could we add photosynthesis to our armamentarium? We're already omnivores, we can eat anything. So why can't we just add photosynthesis? And there's other animals that have done this. Sea slugs actually eat algae and use the algae to actually uh, support themselves. Other animals actually have the algae in their bodies and use the algae energy. The same way we have mitochondria in all our cells. The mitochondria is actually a bacteria. It's not something that was originally part of us. It was digested and absorbed, and we said, hey, you're great, we want to support you. And your mitochondria actually give you the energy you have in a given day. Same thing here, algae actually giving the energy to the sea slug. Most corals have a thing called zooxanthellae that are actually algae inside the coral that actually produce the energy that the coral needs, and the coral provides the structure that protects the zooxanthellae from predators. So it's a symbiotic relationship. So some animals can. The spotted salamander can actually use algae in its eggs to actually get the eggs to be more effective. They're also really cool because they can actually regrow parts of their brain, not only parts of the other body, parts of their body, but parts of their brain. They also evidently can be frozen solid and then come back to life. So very cool animal, but also one that uses algae in itself. So something we could conceivably do ourselves. Humans and algae, basically, for us, there is an algae fungal thing that happens to dogs and cats, but for us, not so much. We would need to convert Staphylococcus epidermidis, which is our current bacteria that lives on the surface of our skin. We could try to introduce algae into that. You'd start looking a little green, but you might be able to create some photosynthesis on the surface of your skin. So very, very cool stuff. Algae itself, we're going to do an algae academy at some point because it's very cool stuff and we're starting to use it to do some really interesting things in science. So that's it. Thank you very much.